Namaskar. Today we will chant from Kathopanishad, Panchami Valli.
Om Sahana Bhavatu
Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Puramekadashadvaramajasyavakrchetasah अनुष्ठाय न शोचति विमुक्तश्च विमुच्यते. एतद्वैतद् हंस शुचिषद्वसुरन्तरिक्षसत् होता वेदिषत् अतिथिर्दुरोणसत् दृशद्वरसद्रुतसद्योमसत् अब्जागोजाऋतजा अद्रिजाऋतं बृहत् ऊर्ध्वं प्राणमुन्नयत्यपानं प्रत्यगस्यति.
मध्ये
वामनमासेनं विश्वे देवा उपासते. अस्य विस्रंसमानस्य शरीरस्तस्य देहिनः देहाद्विमुच्यमानस्य किमत्र परिशिष्यते. एतद्वैतद् न प्राणेन नापानेन मर्त्यो जीवति कश्चन. इतरेण तु जीवन्ति यस्मिन्नेता उपाश्रितौ.
अन्तत
इदं प्रवक्ष्यामि गुह्यं ब्रह्म सनातनम्. यथा च मरणं प्राप्य आत्मा भवति गौतम. योनिमन्ये प्रपद्यन्ते शरीरत्वाय देहिनः. स्थाणुमन्येऽनुसंयन्ति यथा कर्म यथा श्रुतम्. य एष सुप्तेषु जागर्ति कामं कामं पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः. तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्म तदेवामृतमुच्यते.
तस्मिन्
लोकाश्रिता सर्वे तदुनातेति कश्चन. एतद्वैतद् अग्निर्यथैको भुवनं प्रविष्टो रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो बभूव. एकस्तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो वहिष्य. वायुर्यथैको भुवनं प्रविष्टो रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो बभूव. एकस्तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो वहिष्य. सूर्यो यथा सर्वलोकस्य चक्षुर्न लिप्यते चाक्षुषैर्बाह्यदोषैः. एकस्तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा न लिप्यते लोकदुःखेन बाह्यः. एको वशी सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा एकं रूपं बहुधाय करोति. तमात्मस्थं येनुपश्यन्ति धीरास्तेषां सुखं शाश्वतं नेतरेषाम्. नित्यो नित्यानां चेतनश्चेतनानाम् एको बहूनां यो विदधाति कामान्.
तमात्मस्थं
येनुपश्यन्ति धीरास्तेषां शान्ति शाश्वती नेतरेषाम्. तदेतदिति मन्यन्ते निर्देशं परमं सुखम्. कथं नु तद्विजानीयां किमु भाति विभाति वा. न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चन्द्रतारकं नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयमग्निः तमेव भान्तम् अनुभाति सर्वं तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत्
We will resume our study of the Kathopanishad. Yesterday we were on the mantra Paranchikhani Vetrunat Swayambhu Tasmat Paran Pashyati Antaratman. Very significant mantra. It is showing us how our mechanism works. The senses are turned outward, the mind is turned outward. Naturally, we are not able to know the self. And so what is the recommendation here? What is being asked of us? Turn this equipment inward. See, it is easy to turn the senses inward. Okay, you close your eyes. Now you are not seeing anything outside. But is it easy to turn the mind inward? It is always a real monkey mind, always jumping from one thing to the other. So it requires discipline, sadhana, to turn and keep the mind inward. Then he says, you see the next mantra, Parachakaman anuyanti bala te mrityoryanti vitatasya pasham ata dhira amritatvam viditva dhruvama dhruveshviha na prathyante. Immature minds will run after external objects and invariably get caught in the widespread net of death. But wise men, however, know where true immortality lies. That is why they reject everything, knowing that the things of the world are short-lived. So this is the vivek. Short-term pleasure or long-term satisfaction. What would we choose? The restless mind will always fall for what is in front of it. But the really mature, balanced mind will look at the long-term fulfillment. So take care of this. See, again I am telling you this, the only culture which will teach you this. Everywhere it is, what is that called? Instant pleasure. That is being, advertised everywhere. So only this culture will tell you this. And then you see there's a very significant idea here. Yena rupam rasam gandham shabdan sparshan maithunan ete naiva vijanati kimatra parishishyate etadvaitat. Which means whatever your senses are doing, they are, you see, eyes are seeing, ears are hearing, the sense of touch, when you touch something you are getting knowledge through feeling. All of this is only powered by the self. At the heart of your being is the Atman, a unit of pure consciousness. That reflects in the mind. If the mind is transparent enough, it will reflect there and give you awareness, mental awareness. Through that mental awareness, your senses start functioning. Check and see if this is true or not. If you were not mentally aware, would the senses function? You might be looking, but you are not seeing, if there was no mental awareness. You might be appearing to be hearing, but you have gone somewhere else. So you see, it is only when the mind is conjoined with awareness that perception becomes possible. So at the heart of the perceptive process is the self. This is what he is telling. That which enables you to see, think, hear, perceive, cognize is the self. Now we are so caught up with the objects of the senses, we don't see the self. So if you turn this entire equipment inward as the wise ones do, you will be able to know the self. Can you see the self? No. Why? It's not an object of perception. Can you know the self? can know? How? Through vrittis? Through thoughts? You cannot even know the self, you can be the self. Because this path only is like that. The more you try to know it, at some point the mind itself will tell you. It is not an object to be known outside. You have to become deeply conscious within yourself and you will encounter full consciousness. And you will see, I am that. Not that is shining in front of me. Anything shining in front of you is made up by your mind. So you see, the way of the Upanishad is the way of sadhana. You cannot know this intellectually, how much ever you try. You can only know it through spiritual practice. Because to know it is to be it. So take care of this. That is why, many people want to know it by inquiry. Inquiry is a method of the mind. Mind will give you knowledge of objects. Self is not an object. Na sandrishe tishtati rupamasya na chakshusha pashyati kaschanaina hrida manisha manasa viklutto ya evam vidur te amritaste bhavanti. You cannot see it. You can't perceive or cognize Brahman. You can only be it. So adopt the right method. That is why I always said inquiry and meditation. Meditation will teach you how to do inquiry and reach the goal. But without sadhana, it's next to impossible. Unless there is the grace of some great guru and you have passed sanskars along those lines, then it is possible. Then just the Mahavakya and you shot into the goal. That is possible. It's called Shabda Aparoksh, which means Aparoksha Jnana just by Shabda. Not that it is impossible. It is possible, but we must be of that caliber. Like in the Upanishad, some of the heroes are like that. Satyakama, Shvetaketu, Raman Maharshi of our own times, Vivekananda. Vivekananda still showed in Kashipur that you have to pass through Nirvikalpa Samadhi. A method has been shown. But there have been people who just went into it, but they are adhikarika purushas. They are not ordinary people. For us ordinary minds, it is required, training is required. So sadhana is required. Is it right? Then, swapnantam jagaritantam chobhav yenanu pashyati mahantam vibhumatmanam matvadhiro na shochati. Whatever experiences a person has, whether in the sleeping state or in the waking state, are possible only due to the self. Because consciousness is ever shining in our heart, the mind borrows that consciousness, as it were, reflects that consciousness and becomes conscious. And our senses borrow that light of the mind, mental awareness, and appear to be enlivened from within. And through that enlivened apparatus, we are sensing the outer world. Check this out and see. It's happening right now. So now, that is why he is saying, it is at the source of your entire perception and cognition. What's the difference between perception and cognition? Perception means the knowledge brought to you by the senses. Cognition means the knowledge brought to you by the mind, by thoughts. The source of both is the self. So, that is why the enlightened soul, the mantra says, he goes directly to the self. Does not play around in the senses and the mental world. He goes directly, plunges into self-knowledge. Then he says, the person who knows the individual self, in spite of its enjoying the fruits of its actions to be the Lord of the past, present and future, he is close to the self. He who knows this pure consciousness shining in the heart, which enlivens the entire mechanism from within, he knows the self. See, I can go into a lot of analogies and examples at this point, but I think original thinking is very important. You must learn to relate ideas. Knowledge, what is knowledge, tell me? It is nothing but the classification and connection you find between ideas. Categorization. Let the mind categorize, classify and find the connection. Then when it's original knowledge, you will not lose it. That is the way of sadhana. Gradually we get better and better understanding of what is the self and how to proceed towards it. So I gave the example in IISc, for those of you who were there, that even normal perception, you can easily see, now suppose you are watching that tree, that's a green tree, to you, only to you. Is that a green tree? Is it more appropriate to say that is a green tree, or is it appropriate to say to me it appears to be green? Which is correct? To me it appears to be green. Why? That is my perception. First, please catch this point. My eyes are able to only perceive the light that object is throwing out. It happens to fall in the visible light range, in the range of green. So my equipment translates it as green. Only here it becomes green. For a cat, that is a grey tree. For a bat, that is not even a tree. It's a sonic map. It tries to make some sense out of that and detects the object. Yes, but for me it's a green tree because my eyes, the rods and cones there, are capable of catching that range of visible light which translates into green. That much electromagnetic radiation I can catch, and that radiation is rejected by that object. It is not the color of that object. I can only catch rejected light. I can never catch the color of that object. So it is an appearance only. Simple physics, I am not talking Vedanta, I am talking physics. So it catches that radiation, electromagnetic radiation, that goes into through the optic nerve, it goes to the brain, through the thalamus, and you see, then it is all electromagnetic radiation and my neurochemistry. Give me a first person experience of that object in real time and space, a conscious experience of that tree. Pure interpretation is going on. The tree is not at all green. It appears as green to my equipment, to my eyes, and my mind interprets it as a green tree. This is the level of delusion we are suffering. Just go to physics, you don't have to go to Vedanta, and it will tell you this, what is around us is an appearance. As much as my equipment will allow me to experience of reality, only that much I will experience. Reality, perception of reality depends on the equipment I am laden with. Now, if you want to know the truth about that tree, then you must stop this perception process first. And check out this also, that tree is only perceived in my awareness. If I was an unaware entity, suppose I was a robot, I have no self-consciousness, I just have a program which is excellent, an AI module, which clicks that through the sensors, it clicks that and gives me the information it is a tree, and the robot speaks out it's a tree. But no first person experience of the tree, no conscious experience at all. Then I will not feel the reality of that tree. I will not experience it in the first person. So awareness is required for perception. Without awareness, there is no perception and cognition. So if the tree depends on my awareness to be perceived as that tree, can I give it independent existence as a tree? You can never give it independent existence because it depends on my awareness to be perceived as that. That is why they say the tree is unreal. Jagat Mithya is a very technical term in Vedanta. It means it is really as a tree, as a green tree, it is unreal. As Brahman, it is real. Appearing to my equipment as the green tree. Fantastic, no? To my equipment, Brahman appears as the green tree. So it is very wrong to say there is a green tree out there, actually speaking. Language means golmaal. Language will never show us the ultimate truth, because language is a limitation. But somehow we are trying to use language to understand this. At least this much we should understand. The reality there is Brahman appearing to my equipment as the green tree. So also here, every object, the reality is Brahman. Pure awareness shining. And through what it emits towards me, my senses and mind interpret it as a human being, as a man, woman, as space, as a hall, as a tree. Only Brahman exists. That is why Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. That is why once somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna, tell me the truth in one sentence. And Thakur said, it's in the Gospel, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, and then full stop. He didn't speak after that. Then he only said, Eta dharana korachai. You must be able to understand this. World is one of appearance. My equipment gives it some reality. At least this much we should understand. And same thing physics. This year the Nobel Prize for Physics has gone to 3 scientists. What did they prove? That the world is unreal. We studied 5,000 years back. Yes, see all these texts, 5,000 years back they are telling us, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The world is an appearance in consciousness. Just like how on your screen, you make that thing appear which you want to appear, which is your desire. So also this world, that will appear which you want. There is no thing fixed anywhere. Your perceptions, cognition, thought process, understanding, will, everything is, it's interpretation. It works like that. This mechanism works like that. Only thing is, our process of education is such, it never inspires us to think originally. It is only categorizing. So trees, green tree, it's a fixed thing. So because our education proceeds like that, we never come to original questions. But Vedanta is pure, unadulterated originality. Seeing things as they are, not as you want them to be. Not as you want them to be. So that's why they will say, first thing you stop the interpretation of the mind. If an object appears only in consciousness, that object is not apart from consciousness. We discussed this in one of the classes. See, 2 things. You can say they are 2 different things if they can exist apart from each other. But if in any object, perception of any object, if it cannot remain apart from my awareness to be perceived as that object, it means it is my consciousness alone that is appearing as that tree. My consciousness alone that is appearing as objects around me. Yes, consciousness creates its own object and appears to it as man, as woman, as tree, as space, as hall. And you are entertained by the object. You alone have created this whole thing. This is Vedanta. To make this clear, stop the interpretation of the mind first and dive into awareness, and you will understand what they are trying to say. So, you see, next he says, he, the spiritual seeker who is able to see distinctly that being who himself is the firstborn from consciousness and who becomes the elements and who is in the heart of every being is the body and organs, he truly sees. O Nachiketa, this is what I am telling you. There is only one being, reflected and appearing as so many. Only one being. That is why we intensely feel, see, somebody is in suffering, you will at once be able to empathize, isn't it? You intensely feel your neurons will mirror the effect. This is possible only because there is one consciousness. So it is being repeated in different ways. So the next I am going to skip. Same thing they are saying. And then we'll go, you see, go to the 9th mantra. Yataschodeti suryostam yatra cha gacchati tam deva sarve arpitas tarunatheti kasyana etadvaitad. That from where the sun arises and wherein it sets, and all gods depend upon which, that is that Brahman. Nothing is independent of that, you see. This truly is that self, O Nachiketa. Yadeveha iha tadamutra yadamutra tadanviha mrityo samrityumapnoti ya iha naneva pashyati. But he who will see only differences here and exclude everything, he will go from death to death. Yes, statement of, it's a mantra of Kathopanishad. One who will not see the primary unitary consciousness shining in every eye. The light in your eyes is the light of awareness. He who will not see that but will equate you with a body-mind complex, he will go from death to death. He who sees differences is bound to die. His own mind will pull him down. That's the thing. But who sees this unitary consciousness will live a full life. He alone lives. Vivekananda said, who lives for others, that is why. Who sees reality as it is. Then manasaivedamaptavyam nehananasti kinchana. There is no difference at all in this world. There is only appearance of difference. And mrityu samrityu gacchati yaiha naneva. Again and again the Rishi is saying, if you don't see the unitary consciousness shining in all beings, you will go from death to death. And manasaivedam aptavyam. You should know this only through a purified mind. There is no other way. Only the pure mind will reveal reality as it is. The deluded mind will reveal interpretation of reality. Take care of this, that is why. See, what is the sign of a pure mind? How do you know how pure our mind is? There will be intense clarity. There will be real original knowledge. There will be saralata, sahajata. That person is easily approachable. No complications within. And there will be absolutely no negative tendencies. No lust, no anger, no hatred, no jealousies, no gossip mongering. Gossip is one terrible tendency of the human mind. No such tendencies. That is a pure, clear mind. It sees reality as it is. So we must work towards manufacturing this kind of mind. And it will show us the real thing. Today's advertisements, for thumbs up also they will say the real thing. The unreal has become real. Okay, so then again he goes into Angushtha Matra Purusho Madhya Atmani Tishtati Ishano Bhuta Bhavyasya Na Tato Vijagupsate Etadvaitad. So this Brahman resides in the body. See, now they'll tell you like the size of a thumb, like that. What they are trying to tell us, see, can Brahman be physical, like the size of a thumb? It can't be physical. What they are trying to say is, thumb is very essential for the mobility of your hand. It occupies a central space, as it were, central place in what you do with your hand. This Brahman as the Atman shining in your heart is like that. It occupies central place. It is the center of your perception and cognition. It is the seat of your very thought process. This is what they are trying to say. And it controls the past, present and future because it is the Lord of your mind. Yes? And past, present and future are phases of your mind. So when a spiritual aspirant knows this Brahman, he cannot conceal it. You see? If there is knowledge, the nature of knowledge is to shine. Like the nature of the sun. Do you require a torch to see the sun? No. The sun is revealed by its own light. The self is like that. And the man of knowledge also is like that. The self effulgently shines forth through that mind. And you know, that is why. See, one thing you should remember, there is only one way of knowing the self, by its own light. It shining, everything shines. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Shankaracharya gives very beautiful example. A lighted lamp doesn't require another lamp to light it. The sun does not require a torch to reveal it. The self does not require the nod of your mind to acknowledge it. It reveals itself. All you have to do is still the mind and turn it inward. The self will reveal itself. So this is what he is saying. So it cannot conceal itself. That is what he is saying. It's a very, very beautiful expression. You see, when you go to the actual ambit of a really realized soul, a Mahatma, you will feel the strong effulgence of pure knowledge, not vritti jnana, pure being, scintillating sense you can feel. He radiates knowledge, literally. So this is what is being said. Brahman will not conceal itself from such a mind. Then Angushtamatra Purusho Jyotirivadhumakaha Ishano Bhuta Bhavyasya Ya Evadya Sa Ushvaha. This thumb-sized Purusha is seen as a smokeless flame in all hearts. See, it is effulgent by its own light. There cannot be a smokeless flame. They are trying to say awareness is like that. It is like smokeless light. It is self-effulgent. And this is the being who controls your mind and hence your sense of time, past, present and future. And it is always there now as well as in the future. See, this is the beauty of Vedanta. Right now, right here, you are the self. Mind is playing tricks. Mind will tell you, only in Pangot retreat you will realize self. Only if you do tapasya in Himalayas, you will understand the self. How can you know it in Bangalore? Don't listen to this mind. Right now, right here, reality shining in your heart, waiting to come out. So, sadhana is to be done where you are placed. That is the most congenial environment for you. Otherwise, would you think God will place you there? Where you are, there sadhana is to be performed. What you are doing, that is your yoga. So don't dream of, I will do it after 50. I will do it after retirement. Start doing it right now. And where you are placed, that is the best place for you to grow. That is why you are there. You know how many forces in the universe work to put us where we are? There is a talk called Determinism and Free Will. If you are truly interested in very deep philosophy, you must watch that talk. Determinism and free will. Do we have free will or everything is predetermined? It's there on YouTube. It's an IIT Delhi talk. So, many things in the universe have to work for us to even think like this. The fact that today we are here discussing the Upanishad, trying to go deep into it, many things have worked for you for this to happen. So be thankful, grateful, and right where we are, from there we will start. Don't keep things for the future. Then yathodakam durge vrishtam parvateshu vidhavati evam dharman pritak pashyan stadevanu vidhavati. See how beautiful the examples he is giving, analogies. When it rains in inaccessible hill areas, the rainwater runs down the hillsides in scattered streams. In the same way, a person may think each individual has a self of his own because each has a body with distinct features, but he who thinks thus perishes, goes from death to death again. There are no separate selves. See, really, in the Himalayas I have seen this, when 3 months of the year there is thrashing rain, downpour, and on the hills you can see streams going down like that. But it's the same water, it goes down and becomes the same tributary. All tributaries go down and become the same river, and the river goes and merges into the ocean. Like that, he is saying, the self appears to be like different streams in each one of us. But no, it's the same water and it will join together at the end. All water is Ganga water. Because Ganga is plunging into the Bay of Bengal, and that is the water going into the Indian Ocean, and that is the water going into... All 5 oceans are connected, na? Okay, tell me, are there 5 oceans? Are there 5 oceans on earth? There is only one body of water. You gave the names. The ocean under India, the body of water under India, we call the Indian Ocean. The body of water next to Europe, you call the Pacific and Atlantic. So we gave the names. There is only one body of water. So also, are there 200 countries? Only one mass of land. We made up the nations and now we are fighting over it. See, it's a very philosophical moment when you realize there are no divisions absolutely in life. Only we made them. That intelligent we are. Very good at dividing reality and defending one bit, calling it mine. We are very good at that. So also oneself only shining through so many eyes. But we think I am an individual entity and my individuality is very important. There's nothing called individuality. This is what he is telling us. O Gautama, when pure water is poured into pure water, they become one. The same thing happens to the self of a sage who attains self-knowledge. That is, he becomes one with Brahman. You can know it only by being it. There's no other way of knowing it. Then we go into the next chapter, which is also very interesting. You see what beautiful ideas are there. This is the ultimate philosophy, the real vision of things as they are, not as your mind wants them to be. Then in the next chapter, it begins like this, Purameka Dashadvara Ajasya Vakrajetasa. It means this body with its 11 openings is the abode of the self, which is unborn and always the same pure consciousness. See, language is a limitation, that's why I tell you. When you read something like this, at once you will think, oh, the self is in the body. Self is in the body? Huh? Okay, tell me, is the body in consciousness or consciousness is in the body? Consciousness is in the body? Huh? Are you sure? 3 classes of Vedanta we have done. Okay, tell me, fundamentally, is body is in the Atma, body is in consciousness. What feels more real in your first person experience? Tell me. Don't look at philosophy, what they are saying. See, check your first person experience. Is consciousness in my body or my body is shining in consciousness?
My body is shining in consciousness.
My body is shining in my consciousness. My thoughts are shining in my consciousness. Check it out and see right now. So when you read something like this, at once you must understand they are struggling to express something in language. Always, your consciousness is so fundamental to your experience. I told you, like air around you. That the fact that your thoughts are rising and merging in it, we don't realize this. Through the thought, you are identifying with the body and the world of objects, we don't realize this. Everything is happening in your awareness. You are not thinking of awareness, you are thinking in awareness. This is the fact. Brahman is the primary reality of being, ever shining as every object around us. It is not a philosophical concept. It is not a metaphysical abstraction. It is the reality of this universe. Our senses and mind are untrained in thinking like this. So we interpret objects and think we are entities. That is why you see neuroscience, how it is struggling to understand conscious experience. It will continue to struggle because they are using third person method. Are you getting what I am saying? Neuroscience, consciousness studies, neuroscientists are sitting here, and what is that other one? Psychology. All these are struggling to understand consciousness for the simple reason they are taking a third person perspective all the time. An fMRI scan should tell me where consciousness is getting radiated from my brain. Your brain itself is functioning in consciousness, but you are trying to find out consciousness in the brain. How will you find it? So to get this idea primarily that it can only be a first person research, one requires the power of meditation. One requires the power of meditation. In 2009, a group of Tibetan monks were invited by New York State University. And there they were studied. They wanted to study their level of consciousness, the level of alpha, beta, gamma radiation the brain has. And they wanted to study what is it that makes these monks so peaceful. What is it? What kind of waves do their brains radiate? So the Dalai Lama only sent them, and there they were fixed with some 256 electrodes, and the brain fMRI scans of the brain were taken. And when they were studying those scans, they asked one of these monks to go into meditation. Then they were scanning the brain, seeing it different facets, which areas light up. The prefrontal cortex lit up in such a way, it ignited as it were, just by the introduction of meditative process, a thought of loving kindness. The whole PFC is lighting up like this. And the scientists were so stunned. They said, this guy is the happiest person on earth. Because the entire prefrontal cortex has lit up. See, this is the effect of meditation. They said the whole brain is as it were radiating awareness. And then the monk opened his eyes and said, no sir, your brain science is happening in awareness. So the point is this, it's a different methodology, that's all. All this is as much a science as mainstream science. Only this is subjective science, its method is different. And in objective sciences you have the purely objective method, that's all. But this is as much a science as anywhere. See, in 2022, I was in Princeton. Princeton and MIT both held talks on this. And it was entirely on the relationship between Western concept of consciousness and Eastern concept. Is there anything called pure consciousness? The entire discussion was on that. How do you know? How do you know if there's anything called pure consciousness? So then I said that you require a process to know, and the process is meditation. If you have never meditated, all you know is what your mind is telling you about the objective world. That is not enough. Even to know the seat of my perception, the perceptive process, I need to turn within. So if you are able to accept subjective methodology, you will automatically accept this as a science of consciousness. So a whole lot, see, in any institute of learning, the cream group, there will be always a small group of very intense scientists, and maybe they are teaching also academicians, who will have the spiritual sanskar, who will be meditators, who will have this understanding. So a whole lot of them came up, and that is why that talk on art and science of sadhana, spiritual practice, that is there on YouTube, you can watch it. You have to put Princeton, art and science of spiritual practice, Divyanandaprana. Something like that you put and you will get it. How they are studying it, and at the end of the talk, they all have agreed. Their own faculty members spoke about it at the end of the talk. The thing is, you have to accept a method which is very scientific. It's a different kind of method. So this is a science of consciousness. That's why I'm telling you. It's the way to unravel the self. So you see, here he says, a spiritual aspirant will use the body in the service of the self, but not so with others. Yes? And thus he goes beyond sorrow and the cycle of birth and death. This is actually the instrument given to us for the realization of the self. Do we see it like that? Body and mind? See, we must learn to change our ways of thinking. This is indeed a vehicle for self-knowledge. So don't misuse or abuse it. That is what they are trying to say. Then Hamsa, Shuchishad, Vasurantariksha. These are all very powerful mantras. They are telling you how the self has become all this that you see around. We discussed this idea already. Every object is the self shining, appearing as something else. Appearing as that particular object to your senses and mind only. So the self is the heavens, it is Vasu, it is the Hota, it is the Vedic sacrifice, it is Somarasa, it is the human being, it is all the things around the human being, all the things around the sacrificial fires, it is the rhythm, it is the sacrifice, it is the mountain, it is the stream, it is the river. Everything is verily the self. That is why this is a very powerful mantra. It is a direct insight of the Rishi. So he is saying, Hamsa, Shuchishad, Vasurantarikshasad, Hota, Vedishad, Atithi, Duronasad, Nrishad, Varasad, Ritasad, Vyomasad. Everything is that Sat. Where are you looking for Brahman? He is spread all around you. Vivekananda once said, don't seek God, see God. All that exists is God. All that exists is Brahman. We discussed Thakur's vision, Momer Pata, Momer Full, the wax garden. Everything is Brahman appearing as objects around you. So the attitude towards everything should be, now think and see, the mental attitude, once we realize this, should be worshipful, should be one of reverence, service, love, compassion. This is the law of life. Anybody who goes against this law will lose life. Morality and ethics comes automatically with existential inquiry. Automatically it will come because one soul is manifesting as all this. Then Urdhvan Pranamanya Unnayatepan, which means the self is also your vital energy. Pran, Apan, Vyan, Udan, Saman is all the self. It is also your mind. It is also your body. And it is the body of all beings. It is their minds. It is their vital energy. I told you, subject is appearing as object. Consciousness alone manifests as objects around us. You know how this whole thing is from the standpoint of Advaita Vedanta? One Atman desired to become many. So he manifested as objects. And he also reflected in the buddhi, his own buddhi, which he had created, and appeared like another entity, an individual. And God identified with that so-called individuality. And then he opened his eyes and saw the world of objects and wanted to understand the external world. So he invented science and philosophy and all that we have invented. And then he got confused, not finding ultimate answers, and now he is searching for the self, which he is all the time. This is the story of creation. According to Advaita Vedanta, that is why nothing has really happened. Don't worry. This is what they will tell you. You know the story of Janaka and Yajnavalkya. So many stories are there with these two. Everything, Brahman is always there as it was and will continue to be as it is. Don't worry, he says. Nothing has happened. It's like a dream. You will wake up from the dream. One day we will wake up. Don't worry. You know the story of waking up, how Vedanta produces knowledge? Do you know the story of waking up? No. I'll tell you a story so that we understand what they are telling again and again. Okay. See, this story starts in a classroom, primary school classroom. So there is a very, very experienced teacher, and she's sitting and teaching her children. She knows the ways of 5-year, 6-year-old, and so they are all sitting in front of her. And then she says, "Look, my children, today I'm going to give you a very important lesson. And you only have to set fire to your imagination. Imagine that today you went home after school, and then you played for some time, then your mother fed you, and then you fell asleep, and in that sleep you had a dream. In that dream you went to the zoo. You went to the zoo with your parents, and you suddenly saw, you were standing there in the line, you saw your friends also coming. So many of your friends have also come to the zoo with their parents, and your pets are there, and then you bought cotton candy and ice cream and all that, and you entered the zoo with great enthusiasm. All of you now started running and seeing all the different cages. First you saw the small animals, you saw the rabbit, you saw the peacocks, you saw the birds, you saw the owl. All of you are so excited, and you are identifying what you learn in school, you are identifying at the zoo. Then you went to the cages of the bigger animals. First you saw a rhinoceros, then you saw a hippopotamus, then you saw the elephants, so huge. You saw the Indian elephant, you saw the African elephant, and you saw baby elephants. You're so excited now. And then you saw the snakes, all different varieties of snakes. And then you went to the place where they keep the tiger. And you know how that cage was? See, it's a cage huge like this, huge cage, but the top is open. The top is open. And there's a kind of small forest around that cage where the tiger can come out and roam during the day. And then there's a moat, you know, a moat, a body of water around that. And then there are the fences, and you are looking from this side. So there's a considerable distance between you and the tiger, always. But that allows some freedom to the tiger. And the cage itself is huge. See, I actually saw this, I will tell you. I was in South Africa for some time, and there is an African safari. If you go there and see those tigers, they are double the size of the Indian tiger, okay? In the safaris, no? The lion also is double the size of our lions. So they are huge, and such a ferocity on the face. They are so ferocious. So like that kind of a tiger now you are seeing in the zoo. The tiger moves like this, and like the whole cage will shake like this. And if he hits the cage will suffer a dent. It will bend on one side. So it's really scary. Then when you are seeing that tiger, it so happened that this tiger really, seeing so many children looking at him, he hit the cage hard. He was hungry or something, he hit the cage hard, and the cage bent towards one side. And this tiger managed to come out into that little forest, those trees around the cage. Now all of you got scared because he has now come out of the cage. And then, but he was just roaming around. But after a few minutes, he came down and entered that moat. You thought he is drinking water, but now he is in that water body. And tigers can swim. So he swam suddenly, and now he's climbing up towards the fence. You are beyond the fence, so then all of you stepped back. You stepped back, and now you do not know what to do. Then you started running. And suddenly everyone realized that the tiger has jumped out of that fence also. Now he is out in the open. So all of you are running, yelling and running. And then suddenly within a minute, you found a cold paw on your shoulder. What? Then what? Now all the children had become red in face already. They were so scared. And then you turned around like this and see, As it were, the tiger is now upon you, that huge face, and you are already out of fear, you can't shout, you can't talk, you are almost dead, and you fall back on the ground, and now the tiger is upon you, and you face the prospect of being eaten alive. In this situation, my children, what would you do? The teacher is asking the kids, what would you do? And now the children are so scared, even not able to speak. But one little boy said, "Teacher, I will call out to my mom. She will be somewhere, my mother. She will come and help me. I'll shout out to her." Another boy said, "I'll punch the tiger in the face." And one little girl stood up and said, "Madam, I would wake up." You went to the zoo in a dream. Once I said this story to somewhere in the US, I think, and one person fell off from his chair. Because it's so stunning, this story. The girl is saying, "I would just wake up." Because in your dream you had gone to the zoo. Na? Vedanta helps you wake up. It won't ask you to punch the tiger or drive away the tiger or call Ishwara mom. Wake up to the reality of the being around you. Nothing has happened. This is the way of Vedanta. You must wake up to the truth. No use yelling for mummy. Mummy is watching us. But I'm telling you, this is the way of Vedanta. So, wake up to the reality of existence. Brahman is all that there is. I am seeing it differently. So I must wake up to reality. See, smartest girl she was. She said, "Ma'am, I would just wake up at this point." So Vedanta will help you wake up to reality as it is. You don't have to do anything else. If you wake up to reality, you will see things are not bad at all. Nothing has happened. Fear will go, anger will go. Tatra ko moha ka shoka ekatvam anupashyata. How can you have shok and moha and all this nonsense if you see only one consciousness? This is what they are trying to tell us. We'll just do one or two more mantras and take up Q&A. Then he says, okay, so everything is Brahman, this is going on, this refrain. Now jump to mantra number mantra number 8. See, ya esha supteshu jagarti kamam kamam purusho nirmimanaha tadeva shukram tad brahma tadevamritam uchyate. When all beings are asleep, there is one being who remains awake and who goes on producing one desire after another. It is this being who is pure, who is Brahman, and who is referred to as the immortal one. He is the support of all the worlds. Nothing can surpass him. This truly is the self, O Nachiketa. Tattvamasi, he is saying, as it were. This is the self and this you are. See, all the worlds are embedded in him. All beings live in him. He is, through his desire, he has created these objects. And verily he has become this. See, in your dream, you create so many objects and get impacted by them. Right? But it's only you. Anything else in the dream but you? Is there any real object? No. It's an appearance which is impacting you. Same thing is happening here. Same thing is this Jagrat Avastha. You have become all this and are getting impacted by it and are trying to solve the problem. One consciousness is appearing as the objective world. Eta dharana kora chai. As Thakur said, bring it into your dharana, into your meditation. One day it will become realization. Because truth ever remains as it is. Truth does not change. That which does not change is called truth. Our minds keep changing, its philosophies, its understanding, its thoughts. So the mind will come under control when you meditate on truth. Then he says, so everything is verily Brahman. Agnir yathaiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva. Like the same fire having entered the world has assumed different forms according to the inflammable object in which it is found, similarly the same inmost self in all beings and is also outside of those beings. The objective world and the body-mind complex is verily the self only. He has become all this. Tini Shab Hoyechen. Check and see in Kathamrit how many times Thakur says this. Tini Shab Hoyechen. He alone has become all this. This is pure Vedanta. Then, Vayur Yathaiko Bhuvanam Pravishto Rupam Rupam Pratirupo Babhuva Ekas Tatha Sarva Bhutantaratma Rupam Rupam Pratirupa Vayasya. Which means the same air in the world is present in every being as his breath. Similarly, the same self is in every being, assuming a form and also outside of that form. See? Again and again they are telling the same thing. Suryo yatha sarvalokasya chakshu na lipyate chakshushay bahya doshay. Just as the sun is the only eye of all, and yet the external blemishes do not contaminate it, in the same way, the self, though the self of all, is not affected by the sorrows of those beings in which it dwells, either inside or outside. Which means the doings of your mind do not affect the self. Is this clear? See, our mind is sometimes getting very excited with Vedanta, sometimes it is in ignorance, sometimes it is dull, sometimes it is happy, sometimes it is vibrant, all the time going through so many moods. This does not affect the self. Self is that light of awareness which illumines the mind and makes it conscious. The conditioning of the mind does not affect the self. So don't worry. That's the message. Don't worry about the doings of your mind. Do sadhana and correct the ways of your mind. But don't worry about all the happenings of your mind, because the self is not the mind. The self is that which illumines the mind from within. See, today they are focusing on the conscious mind in all consciousness studies. Without self-knowledge, how can you know the conscious mind? What is the consciousness of the conscious mind? That we must try to find out first. Now, see, these are all hints towards that. Just like how the sun cannot be blemished. Any cloud coming in front of the sun does not affect the sun. So also any cloud coming into your mind does not affect the self. Don't worry. Continue your sadhana and the mind will become clear enough to reflect the perfect light shining behind it. This is all they are telling us. Eko vashi sarva bhutantaratma ekam rupam bahudhaya karoti. The cosmic self is one, yet it controls all. It is the inmost self of all beings and it manifests itself as many. Those wise people who see that self within themselves are eternally happy. See, the secret of happiness lies in awareness, pure consciousness. Nityo anityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhira tesham shanti shashvati na itaresham. He who sees the permanent among the impermanent and the consciousness among that which appears to be conscious. See how beautiful the expressions are. Nityo anityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. One who is able to see this. Tam atmastham yenu pashyanti dhira, and knows that to be his very self. He attains eternal peace, peace of mind. He will be very stable and it does not belong to the others who don't see this self. Tadetaditi manyante anirdeshyam paramam sukham. So it is that indefinable great bliss which the sages are referring to when they say it is this. Brahman is verily bliss and you cannot grasp it through the mind and intellect. A good mood is not called bliss. A little sensate stimulation is not called happiness. The self is blissful and happy. The rest are, they are just borrowing that awareness and trying to feel a little good. That's all. We are confusing pain for pleasure. Please see, the nature of senses and mind is like that. Because they are deluded, they are covered with maya, they misinterpret reality. See, the joy you get by eating an ice cream can you compare it with the joy of meditation? With the joy of devotion to God? It's a different order of joy. So we have a book called Science of Happiness. I don't know if it is here. Is it here? So you can purchase that book. That book is today a textbook in many universities, especially for consciousness studies. And self-discovery also has become textbook in Kolkata University. Why, pure knowledge of Vedanta has to enter contemplative psychology. Psychology and philosophy departments are using it as textbook. You must know the different levels of happiness available to the human being and why this alone is called bliss and not eating a cake. That cannot be called bliss, no matter how they advertise it. The power of marketing, that's all. But only the self-knowledge gives real bliss. Awareness gives happiness, nothing else. So we'll end it here and I'll open the floor for questions. We continue tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last class. Okay. Any questions on what we have discussed? Okay, when you employ a process like meditation, you must do it at a center. Heart center is given. Why, So that when you turn around, you will see light. If you don't concentrate on the heart center, you won't see light. Just imagining something in the mind will not do. There's a technique. Meditation is a technique in itself. Do it properly as it should be done. Concentrate on the heart center. You are lifting vitality to the heart automatically. It will become vibrant and alive. You will see light there. Secondly, this is the light of awareness. It is not the light of this kind of light or your imagination playing there. The home of the mind is the heart. So meditation has to be practiced the way it has to be practiced. Don't randomly take up something from YouTube or something like that. One meditation which we have released on YouTube, because you see the entire IIT wanted it. So we released a meditation called Yoga Vedanta Guided Meditation. Yoga Vedanta Guided Meditation. Please watch that video. There is enough information on the meditative process on YouTube. If you go to the video called, what's the name of that meditation video? All About Meditation. If you go to the video called All About Meditation, the entire meditative process is discussed. You must, before you attempt something like this, you must have this background knowledge. Enquiry will work immediately only for a very ripe mind. The rest of us require a meditative process. And sadhana is required. Otherwise what will happen? Enquiry will suddenly give you insight and an intellectual conviction. But it won't percolate into the other koshas. Are you understanding? Body will keep doing its own thing. Mind will keep misbehaving as usual. And your entire, those 5 koshas which I discussed, they will all, according to their conditioning, they will carry on. But I may have an intellectual understanding. For most people, this is what enquiry does. But But if there is a ripeness behind that, if there is a long practice behind that, inquiry can lead to self-knowledge. So stick to the practice. Anything you want, even in this world, you have to be sincere about it, isn't it? So spiritual world, all the more. The more we practice, the easier it will become. Anything else? Any other question? Yes, Didi. I have a very nice slide, the one I showed at ISC, in that same PPT, we have a slide on Parokshanubhuti, Aparokshanubhuti and the Samadhis, where they help. See, philosophically speaking, the path of Yoga and Vedanta are different. As philosophies, they are different. Yoga marg belongs to Sankhya, dual reality. Mind also is real there. Prakriti and Purusha both are real. Vedanta does not belong to Sankhya. It contradicts Sankhya. Only consciousness, only Purusha is real. It's called Brahman in Vedanta. But when you are practicing spiritual discipline, Yoga and Vedanta, Yoga can lead to Vedanta. You know why? You are here working with the mind. Sadhana pertains to mind. So you can borrow from Yoga the methods of concentration, the way they are trying to understand mind and correct it. You can use all that knowledge and it will take you into the knowledge of the Purusha only. The insight finally generated will be Vedantic. So you can use many things from Yoga Marg in actual practice. This question popped up in the Esiloma retreat. Is Samadhi required for Brahmagyan? The typical Vedantin will tell you no. But the practicing sadhak will tell you many things there will, yes, it is required. So the way of, see, when we say something like Nirvikalpa Samadhi, for example, suppose we use the word Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi itself comes from that Samadhi where Vikalpas are not there. Visheshana Kalpitam iti Vikalpitam, which means no form of thought is there, which means you have transcended mind. So unless mind was trained, you cannot transcend it. To train it is Ashtanga Yoga. See the connection between Yoga and Vedanta? If you train it through Ashtanga Yoga, it will automatically lead to the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, it is not necessary that only Nirvikalpa Samadhi will give Brahmagyan. It can come through in inquiry only if the mind has learned to transcend itself, if it is so pure. In fact, in the Upanishads, there is no word Samadhi, but there is the word Yoga. 2 Upanishads and a whole lot of minor Upanishads are talking of yoga. Vivek Chudamani also. All Prakarana Granthas are talking of yoga. Because it's an aid. The state of Samadhi, the state of pure Nirvikalpa is not different from the state of realization. But the standard Vedantic technique is Shravan, Manan and Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is akin to meditation. Very close to meditation. But through Shravan or Manan, that way you have to go. So although the word Samadhi may not be there, you must remember that Samadhi-like state must come through inquiry and Nididhyasana, and then only Brahmagyan is possible. It will lead to absorption in the self. If that has not happened, no. See, whether it is Yoga or it is Vedanta, Vedanta, especially Advaita Vedanta, put great insistence on Shravan and also Nididhyasana, both. There are 2 schools, Vartika, Vivarna will lay insistence on Shravan and Bhamati will lay insistence on Nididhyasana. So because they believe that this is the primary method, they don't talk of Samadhi. But our mind is so crazy, it requires a fundamental training in yoga. Then only you can even do this and this. So see, if you are a practicing sadhak, you will use whatever is useful to you. Bring it into your life. These are, as philosophies, they may contradict each other at one or the other point. But practical aid, yoga will provide great aid. That's why I usually, to IITs and all, I give yogic method to attain Vedantic knowledge. I call it Yog Vedant. Because practically it is useful to you. That is why Vivekananda gave us the 4 yogas, isn't it? Bhakti, Karma, Jnana. Why did he give these 4 yogas? Practically that is what people can do, because you think mind is real. How many of us can say mind is not real? My mind is not real. How many of us can say that? Tell me. Hare, I live in my mind. So when it is real for you, it is a working method, working philosophy, yoga. Use it. But then you will come to the insights of Vedanta just by using it. So there is a connection between the two. Everywhere this question is popping up actually. Is Samadhi required for Brahma Vidya or not? Because Upanishads are not talking of Samadhi. But in our literature, see Thakur, all the time in Samadhi. Isn't it? Constantly is going in and out of it. Vivekananda is described as having had Brahmagyan only through Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So our literature is insisting, it's a combination of yoga and Vedanta. Vivekananda always recommended that. That's why I also talk that way only. I don't talk of the purely Vedantic method where you don't require Samadhi. Yes. Anything else? Yes. 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 I know. See, if there is extreme difficulty, in a way it is good to leave it at home. But as far as possible, you should adjust. Same thing applies even family ties and all that. In case of extreme, unbearable difficulty, you can have that option, but not otherwise. You must adjust as far as possible. Gossip and all these things, they are, for undeveloped minds. They are something they will easily resort to, because it keeps their energy going. Somewhere they have to apply energy. It's called holy gossip. If there's nothing to gossip about, talk about some ashram or talk about something, keep the conversation going. So all these things only exhaust energy. A real spiritual aspirant will not even speak unless it's really required. Will not even speak. And the undeveloped mind is constantly pouring out, because it's a safety valve, Unless she speaks, the pressure will build up here and burst. So there's an outlet. That's why she is going on. Do you know the joke about speaking? Let me tell you a joke. See, there was one lady who would, if she picked up the phone, it would go on for 1 hour minimum. 1 hour she will go on talking on the phone. One day her husband noticed she talked only half an hour. And he said, "What happened today? Only half an hour. Are you well?" And she said, "It was wrong number." Half an hour on a wrong number. The inner pressure is being brought out. It's a very pathetic way of living, Yogasya prathama dwara vang nirodh. Take care of this. Gossip will distract the mind and it will go somewhere. Check on all this in a big way. Otherwise, it's not possible. All this, really, it requires a complete concentration, all these things. So you must check all the rest.
You should have challenges, right? Maybe that will make you a person with a great
Yes.
confidence. Without challenges,
Yes.
routine.
Yes, that is true.
You have to have that on a daily basis.
No, many times what happens is on the job front or even in the family, the challenge becomes more than what you can meet. A really positive, good kind of challenge will generate flow. It will help you and grow. But many challenges are not like that in life. In Ramakrishna Math, I was there on 10th. One person asked me, "Ki Mataji, were you all there? Any of you know?" One person actually asked this. He's saying, "Mataji, if you are not married and no family, then it is very good because no challenges." But otherwise, we have to face so much. So only you people can really work. We cannot work even if we want to. All this you are saying. So like that, sometimes challenges can be very trapping. Yes. See, for sadhana, it is an advantage to be alone. Loneliness is different from aloneness. Aloneness need not mean you're lonely. Loneliness is a big problem in America. Everybody is suffering from loneliness. Being alone, a spiritual aspirant actually wants to be alone for the sake of sadhana. That is not called loneliness. So distinguish between these two. And if you are suffering loneliness, then yes, you go and interact, have positive interactions, have good company. But if you are having aloneness and enjoying it, that is wonderful. That is required for sadhana. Thakur used to say, "Mone, bone, kone." Go into retreat from time to time, and the place is Mone, bone, kone. Okay, shall we end it here? Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.